Also, hello and welcome to a gaming conversation with friends. I believe we're back on the air. Let's just see if we are. A gaming conversation with friends is back. We're live on YouTube and we're live on the Rumble platform. It's always better to be on multiple platforms. It's a great thing to be on multiple platforms, as Removal Sanity will tell you. And especially my pest control content, I'm on multiple platforms. And Nextdoor, believe it or not, I don't know if you've ever heard the Nextdoor app. For my pest control content, it's one of my best platforms. I get from 1.2 to 1.6k views on videos, even though it's a community app. I still get.
Best one is still the best one I've ever heard of is actually Pornhub.
Well, you will get massive numbers on that, won't you?
Strangely enough, it is actually someone. I think it's infamous now, but there's a guy there who just does. He's got a channel up there on Pornhub that just does, I don't know, like fixing stuff or something like that, or just gaming. Yeah, he gets huge numbers.
I can imagine.
I was like, so yeah, there you go.
That's interesting.
That's the best way.
But no, it's glad to be back with both of you. It's been a few weeks since we've done it, so I'm glad you could join us. How are you doing, Removal Sanity?
In pain. I did a 9-mile walk yesterday, so I'm going to be a little bit sore. Blisters on feet.
That's a big walk, that is.
Well, to be honest with you, it's not really. To be honest with you, it's just I'm that unfit. You know,
9 miles. That was like when I went to London and good old Mass Mayhem. Give me a nice. Hang on a minute. Well, hang on. What the fuck's going? Hang on.
What are you doing? We're still here. Don't worry.
Oh, hang on. Oh no, right. That's fine. It's okay. I was stupidly looking at the wrong channel.
Yeah, I thought you
fucking channel.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm watching this on YouTube, so I know he was perfectly fine.
I wasn't looking. My channel's Mike and Orcs, and yours is desktop, and I was like, "What the fuck? I fucked it up again." But no,
doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me.
But no,
morning, Gina. He's had a quick chat and everything. Yes, yeah, no, I was like a 9-mile walk, and it's in 3.5 hours. So yeah, I was a little bit sore today.
I bet you were, definitely. Welcome to the Gina. Good evening or good morning.
Good morning.
You said good morning. You go back on the record. A minute ago, you just said good morning to Gina.
Host.
We're all hosts. We are all hosts. We are co-hosts.
You know,
we're all co-hosts.
Bonjour, ça va? Oui bien.
Thanks for popping in, Gina. Appreciate it. And welcome back to VJ. How are you doing?
Hello. How are you?
I'm all right, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. It's been a while, and it's good to be back, and looking forward to having a brief chat.
Good to hear. Now, Gina's just pointed out you did say it was morning.
Yeah, but this is a Gina. His brain was like,
However, he did say though
he was in like Spain or somewhere, so I'm assuming he was still there. I don't remember him getting back.
He would like to say that Wales is still part of the UK. And he's in the same time
zone. Well, that can be disputed, can't it? Really? Well, I don't know.
Yeah, it's good to have you back on VJ. It's been a while since we've actually. I think we spoke last week. We did, but I've now managed to get back into gaming. I have been playing Starfield. I have since it's dropped a new 60 frames per second patch, and there's been loads of. I can't tell you what the upgrades are, but I've been taking my time on it, and I've actually been enjoying Starfield. I have. It's quite a nice game. I mean, when it first launched, I jumped. It was in the manic summer of wasp nests last year, I think it was, and I bought the early access because I got FOMO, then I played it for 3 hours. I never played it again, and
Doesn't surprise
then
me.
Robbo HTID told me that there's a massive patch come out. It's 60 frames per second, and the game's quite good. Well, he likes it, so I gave it a try, and yeah,
Got past the tutorial.
I've been liking it. I started it again, basically, because I didn't really get that far in last time. So I'm not that far in now, but I've been doing a lot of exploring as well. It's quite good, slow-paced game, but it's good.
It's the same with all.
But the I believe, though, I might be wrong. I was told by AFC Paul, because I was on about the patch update, and he reckons that the patch massively improves the console version and makes it the better because he prefers the console version to the PC version. He does. He reckons that's the better version. It really improves the console one, he said. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. I can't tell you what the updates are because I don't keep up with a lot of news, but it does look good. It does look good. But yeah, it's all been good. But at least I'm back into gaming now. I am. I've been on the weight loss trail. I've lost 2.5 stone in weight, which isn't bad. So far. It's I'm enjoying it, and I'm, I have the odd treat here and there, but not to the degree where I was doing it all the time. Like, how you got the kids' sweets and stuff for like pat lunches, etc. That's what I kept doing, just diving into the chocolate bars, etc. And now I don't. I just try and stick to the main meals. I normally have a shake in the daytime. I have my breakfast, and I go gym a lot. And I drink a lot of water. I don't really drink alcohol very often anymore, either. And yeah, it's all going well. 24 something stone now, which is good. It is. But yes, surprising how much I've lost. But they always say when you do start, it can.
You get a big chunk, then it slows down, and it's that second chunk you try and get round to.
Yeah, but it's working. It's working. That's 2.5 stone since I started. So I didn't actually weigh myself when I started. You see, what happened was I went to the weight I was when I broke my knee, which was 170 kg, which is bloody high, and that's what I presumed I was, and that's how I worked it out. Because when I started, I didn't weigh myself because I don't like weighing myself. It's not a thing I like, but I like it nowadays. I don't always lose because sometimes what happened at the start was I thought I wasn't losing, but then I realised I was losing because sometimes, because I do obviously I do weight training and cardio. Because I lost all the strength in my legs and now got a lot of strength, sometimes that is replacing fat with muscle as such. It is.
Muscle weighs as heavy as muscle fat.
Yeah, so it balances out, but it's all going well. It is. Sometimes I walk to the gym, that's a good workout. Sometimes I go drive to the gym and go on the cross trainers. I do. So I mix it up. But it's all going well. It is. I thought I'd update people on that. It's all going well. But yeah, Jin is saying that Starfield's a fantastic game, waiting for the new DLC to jump back in. Yeah, BMG was telling me. I'm so out of the loop with gaming that apparently there's a new the new expansion's meant to be coming what they call this fall, sometime this year. So that's October, November, isn't it? So I'll have to see if I get there by then. But currently I'm sticking to one game. Unless you see me online and see my account playing Roblox, which is my wife's playing a game on Roblox called Farm Town.
Yeah.
No, honestly, this I think it's called Town Farm or Farm Town. And she's built this massive farm. I mean, it's ginormous. Absolutely massive. But for a Roblox game, it's quite in depth to what you can actually do. It's all right for a Roblox game. It's not buggy. It's not a bad game, but I don't want to play it. But that's what I've been doing. But what's everyone else been up to recently?
VJ first, because he's a man of games.
Go ahead, Removal.
Well, I think everyone knows what I've been doing. I've just been reviewing games.
Reviewing.
Yeah, I've got reviewing games. Another one out tomorrow, and then I've got another one out next week, and I think there's another one out later after that.
I'm gonna have to catch up. I've not been watching gaming videos. I haven't.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah. So, yeah, I've been. It's Crow Country is reviews out tomorrow. So yeah, it was Paper Trail last week. Crow Country this week. Neuro Driver next week.
Nice. Good.
So that's kind of kept me kind of yeah. You know, you kind of got to try and keep up with all of those sort of those games sort of thing. But yeah, some really good indie games there that I'm kind of keep myself busy.
Good to hear. Right. Have you been playing much, VJ, or have you just been chilling out in life and that? Have you been like me? What have you been up to?
I tried. I think there was Eudine Chronicles 100 Heroes. I played that for a while, and I tried Hellblade II as well. So, but not much else.
How was it?
I beg your pardon?
How was Hellblade II?
Hellblade 2.
Yeah.
So much for Eudine Chronicles. Tells you everything you need to know about that game. Hellblade 2. Just depends what you want. Do you want? So we want to discuss it in depth in terms of studio, what they've managed to produce over 6 years, or just a surface level impression. So if you just want
a surface level impression at the moment for those who probably haven't played it, so I suspect that it's a good. If you're on PlayStation, you probably know everything about it. If you're on Xbox, I suspect you probably don't know anything about it apart from that it's a sequel to Helldivers, and it has a kind of what's the film called? Starship Troopers-esque sort of
what are you on about?
Yeah, we're talking about Senua Saga, Hellblade 2.
Hellblade 2? What are you on about?
I'm thinking Helldivers. What am I talking about? Yeah, I'm thinking about Helldivers. Is it Helldivers?
I thought Hellblade. I was like, what the f is he on about?
Hellblade.
I think it's Helldivers. That's what I said. It's like, oh, my brain was going.
I was like, I don't think VJ's played Helldivers 2, have you?
Well, he's got a PlayStation. That's what I assumed. I was like, oh, okay.
No.
So yeah, just on the Xbox really. Eudine Chronicles and Hellblade. So, but it's I mean, obviously, you know, I played the first one. Yeah, I did. I finished the first one. I kind of sort of enjoyed it and didn't enjoy it, but I kind of know what to expect from Ninja Theory. I had friends that associates I used to work with, and some of them went to the States to work for studios, and once they'd got their experience over in California, they actually moved back to Ninja Theory, Cambridge of all, because it was a place that was hiring, and there isn't a huge choice of studios that make the kind of games that Ninja Theory make. So it was interesting, even though I think we discussed it on the show, right? If we were looking forward to it or not. I wasn't particularly looking forward to playing it, but since there wasn't much else, I thought, well, just boot it up and have a go. So I played it. The visuals are decent. I still think there's some issues with transitions, and it's not as smooth as, say, God of War in terms of between gameplay sequences and the event scenes that occur. The visuals are nice, but I think that you can see that I'm not an expert in this stuff, but you can see where all the computational power is going. It's going towards producing those visuals, and that's why it's lacking in animation, in AI, and the way that a little bit like Okami, in the sense that when you're in combat, suddenly the backgrounds disappear, and you're kind of like in a visual sort of psychedelic shell where you're sort of facing enemies one-on-one.
They use like phasing techniques. It's kind of like it blurs out the backs, and so you can
it's like a culling process, right? So you don't have to render as much, which we talked about. But besides that, it's interesting to look at because it's nice to see what the Unreal Engine 5 is capable of, and you can see now as to why so many TV show companies and film studios are using it to help them in producing sort of high end content, perhaps at a fraction of the price than sort of rather than being on location all over the world. So, but more importantly than that, what I found is that the way that the game is structured, and I'm not an expert on psychosis or anything like that, but forgive me, I know you've spoken about it before, Removal, so correct me if I've got the term wrong or not. I don't want to get caught out on that, but the what I found is that it really does sort of, it reminded me a lot of I'm not saying I know, I'm just saying it just because I read a lot of stuff pertaining to Carl Jung, who's a was he a psychologist or psychotherapist? Anyway, it just reminded me a lot of what he spoke about, and in terms of his philosophy, in terms of how he saw the human mind, how it operates, how people have their conscious I and the conscious myself, and they also have a subconscious. He used to call it the shadow, and in terms of everything that you suppress or everything due to your education, due to the way you've been brought up, due to society being able to fit in, and how those sort of voices sort of filter into the background and only come up in instances without even you being conscious about them, in terms of how you act when you're angry, when you're sad, when you're fearful, etc., etc. And it really kind of, I don't want to say they took it as an influence, but it's the similarities are there in terms of how Carl Jung explains psychosis and psychology, etc., and people's dark passenger, and how to look into that and incorporate it into your conscious self, so you can become the whole self, so to speak. And I think it does a really good job of that in terms of sort of it's not just for people that suffer from psychosis, it's because everybody effectively does, right, on some level. But I think it does a really good job of presenting that in a visual artistic form so that everyone can appreciate, instead of having to read sort of 500-page manuals just to get the point of one person who arguably is probably one of the smartest men that existed over the last 2 or 3 centuries. So,
well, that was
in that sense,
the idea of the game. The first game, anyway, was to give people the closest experience of those who suffer with the condition. It was there to try and give them an understanding of what those with the condition go through every day. And they had, in the first one, and I think probably again in the second one, they had those with that condition guide them in terms of what it was like, even into the distinction of the different voices berating, attacking, guiding Senua throughout the whole journey. And I think they even say is that if you want to listen to the game in its truest form, is actually to try and listen to it with headphones on, to try and block out all surrounding sound, use the headphones, and that would give you the clearest indicator of what it is like to have voices in your head.
I would say to an acute level. I think Carl Jung expresses, and I think he does it much better than I can. He expresses it in terms that we all suffer from it, and
sorry, was this the shadow? Sorry, VJ.
Sorry,
was this the Shadows video you sent me?
No, no. That's
sorry.
That's sort of somebody speaking on Carl Jung's work.
Oh, sorry.
You have to actually watch Carl Jung and understand how he explains it more, because everything else is just based on what he said, and there isn't that many sort of oral videos on him. But it was just interesting that the correlation perhaps is removals. I don't know, maybe it's just a cheap correlation that I'm making, because my understanding of psychology and all that sort of stuff is very limited. But because obviously Carl Jung speaks about a lot of stuff is almost a polymath, isn't he? But yeah, no, it's just the correlation I made. I don't know if it was just the timing, but it does carry important messages. And I think Ruve was right in the fact that the first game and this game just expresses what people go through in terms of psychosis, but on an acute level. But what I think Carl Jung says is that, look, we all go through it, but some of us
Well,
are.
I think there was a description now that Carl Jung's that was his thought process. What they have actually tuned to now is that is it that was it? It's something like only a 70% have an inner monologue. 30% of people don't have an inner monologue, which would lead into which they've only found out recently. So his thought that everyone has a slight shadow to them in that regards it's kind of been slightly disproven recently, because they've actually found that actually some people just don't have an inner monologue. They don't have that capability, which is was kind of shocking to some people. It's like, wait, what? So yes, the pristine theory at the time was that it would have been that everyone has a slight, what I would say is a voice in their head, whether it be their own personal voice. As you read something, you can hear your own voice, effectively reading it for you. That's recently, as I said, kind of been disproven actually. So whilst his theories may still resonate, there are some tweaks to it that may need looking at further down the line. Now that as the more modern techniques are coming through to spot certain different things, I think one of the most intriguing ones is the fact that I think it's like 30% don't have an inner monologue in their heads whatsoever. And if I think there was a video, actually there is a YouTube, I can't think of where it was, but it was a YouTube with someone actually speaking to a person who doesn't have an inner monologue, and how they read things and how they pertain things, and it's quite fascinating.
Yeah, Carl Jung died like nearly 65 years ago, something
Exactly.
like that.
So his retaining theory, whilst it's not disproven, it's just at the time he had the best evidence and data that was there, sort of thing. So
but you've got to give it the passage of time, and then 50 years from now, there'll be all the facts and beliefs and everything we know today. I don't know who said it, but there was a quote.
Doesn't disprove his theories in its entirety, but exactly, it does hold.
Always, See, I don't want to go in a pride that this is a belief and this is a fact, but I think there are always going to be exceptions to the rule, and in 50 to 60 years' time, then whatever we know today will change and alter, because everything pretty much is transient, right? And are subject to changes. But it was just the correlation of what he was saying was interesting, because I think some of what he spoke of, and he spoke about a lot of things, but some of what he spoke of did kind of find it sort of embedded in the game, which is not it's not a bad thing or a good thing. It was just interesting to see that at least the studio had done a lot of work in terms of looking back at past philosophers that or psychologists, etc., or renowned psychiatrists, if you want to put it that way, and done their research and tried to sort of portray it in the best way possible to give that message on, regardless of what you think of the technical side of the game or the gameplay side of the game.
Yeah, the ethos of the game, regardless of, as you said, its attributions and flaws, or even its
all very subjective.
What I classify is it's positive elements. It's been based on the best data currently now. And it's there to try and to explain people, whilst the game play is in there, it's also to explain to people, it's like, this is what it's like for this condition. Please be aware. And this is the sort of thing I'd like to see more. I'd like to see these different types of games be brought forthcoming. I don't think there are many games that will touch on particular conditions in this sort of unique way, and I think it's something that kind of needs a little bit more. I need a little bit more experimentation. I think these sort of experimentations should be encouraged. And I saw a couple of people saying, "Oh, this is a very short game," and it's like, well, Short as in what? One person's short is another person's way too long. Short is a subjective term as well. You know, it's the experience within the game that will tell you whether or not this is a good game. Did you enjoy it? You can have a fantastically engrossing 30-minute TV series, and you can have an absolutely horrific 4-hour film.
Or 20 minutes of Delicious in Dungeon.
That's exactly where my brain was going. Exactly. So you can, time is a subjective, very subjective sort of situation.
I think you're right. I think trying to berate a game or mark it down, criticize it, or mock it, or in any sort of way due to its length is, I think you're reaching there. You're clutching there at straws to for whatever possible reason. I think you're right. You've got to play it, and I think we've spoken about it on the show, Ruba, where some games you play and you think, it's kind of outlasted its welcome, and some games are too short. But what I will say is that they seem to have the foundation here now.
Yeah.
This is the foundation. So if they made a chapter, I would assume that from a production standpoint, they'll be able to churn another chapter out relatively quickly. But it all depends.
Though I don't think so. I think if you remember correctly, this is the same sort of length as the first one.
Yep.
Depends
if they want to move the needle again. If they want to move the needle again, it will take them a long time.
Exactly. It's one of those things. I just for the sake of it, I don't think they should. Just for the sake of it, I don't think they should do it. I mean, it could easily have ended where Senua, the first one, was done. If you know the ending of that game, you could easily have kind of, that's it, it's done. So to take it again with Senua is a good thing. It's nice to see her back, sort of thing. But it's, I don't expect them to have to churn out something else. It could be easily the graphical. I think what was good about this was that they were one of the first studios to test the waters of Unreal 5. And it's interesting. It is Unreal 5, isn't it? It is. I am correct.
Yeah.
Unreal 5. And I am interesting to see how far they've pushed it. They looks like they pushed it pretty hard already with this. I'll be interesting to see where else they can push it. It doesn't necessarily have to be with this particular franchise, but I always thought they were, they was one of the first that looks like they were like, right, let's try and push the fidelity of this, and I think it's one of those games that's gonna, you'll either love it or you'll hate it. I liked the first one. I haven't played this one yet. I've downloaded. I just had a chance to do it, but I'll see what it's like. Hence why I'm not commenting too much on the gameplay or anything like that, because I haven't played it yet.
I haven't finished the first. Well, you'd be surprised. Yeah, I haven't finished the first one, but I did like the fact that the voices really freaked me out. They did. They really freaked me out. It's like, that must be what it must be like then. It's really scary.
Well, that's the idea. Yeah. The idea is that it is there to consistently unnerve you, and that's how the condition is. That's how people live with that condition even today. So you can imagine how,
I think if you're a gamer and you've got some time, it's definitely worth your time, because it's just I think like you were saying, River, there isn't. I can't think off the top of my head. I can't think of another game that gives you this kind of experience unless you've played the first game. But I found this. I've played the first one, and I'm a few hours into this one, and I would say that technically, obviously, it's ahead, and also from a storytelling perspective, I don't know. I actually prefer this version to the first one for some reason. I can't quite put my finger on it.
I think if I remember correctly, the first one was a test. Effectively, it was a test to see because it was an experimental game. It's an experimental game. People forget this. As you said, it's an experimental game where it deals with a real life condition and puts it into the gaming space. And that you never know if it's going to be a hit or miss. You never know how it's going to be a hit and miss. And I think, if I remember correctly, watching from the original documentation, there were some elements they didn't want to lean into too hard, just in case it was not going to be as good of reception. Where I think on this one, I think they may have leaned into it a little bit more harder. The story may have been, a little bit more developed than it was originally. I wasn't say like the first one was a tech demo, but it was a test in some forms of how it will be received.
I would say though that the technology that this game seems to have, and the first ones, it's a game obviously, but I would say that these kind of games, you could say they are tech demos because they're obviously full games. I just mean like they could be a showpiece. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, that was the thing.
Yeah.
They are technically pushing the boundaries, and they were technically pushing a lot of boundaries, not only in visual fidelity but in sound fidelity.
Yeah.
And that was the thing. Definitely in sound fidelity, they were trying to explain to people as like, we have put in 3D spatial sound so that you felt like there was people inside your headset wandering around you. And in this one in particular, they went into a little bit more in depth. So if you've seen the actual making of this one, you'll see them where the voices effectively, you'll see someone, they're circling a microphone to try and give you that sense of voices circling your own head. It's if you're into spatial awareness and spatial sound, it's a very interesting, intriguing way to try and how they're working around and how they're getting the sound itself to change and manipulate. So it was really interesting. If you're into 3D spatial sound, look at their development, and they give you a little hint on how they kind of achieved a lot of the uniqueness into this game.
Yeah, I've got to try it still. I think I may go back and try and play the first one or complete it. But like, welcome to Luke Steele. Luke Steele's a great fan of the second game, but he was also a fan of the first game. But he does admit in the chat that this game isn't for everyone, which it won't be.
Exactly.
But one thing I will say though. Am I correct? This is a British studio, Limited Spa, right? British studio
in the UK.
See, this
in Cambridge.
It's
Cambridge.
It's British, but I think they have got because the actress isn't British, is she? I think she's Norwegian.
Okay, but I think it's made here.
What's the question? Yeah, it's made in the UK. The game is made in the UK. Yeah. That's right.
We don't often get games that hit the bar this high, do we? In the UK, mate. It's normally American developers.
Elite Dangerous is made in Cambridge. They do a lot of the.
These top. I mean, you know what I'm going for. The award-winning games. Do you see what I'm saying? These top.
I know there are a couple of award-winning English studios. It's just what they do is they generally, maybe not this often. Yeah. Is what's probably best. We do get a few award-winning British studios come shining through. Where I think Ninja Theory has probably produced. Yeah, Playground Games, as the Gina said. There are some.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot about that.
This is probably the more what I'd classify as. It's a franchise that is consistently, it seems to be upping its bar, and so, I think that we've got some pretty good studios, to be honest with you. It's just that a few people often forget about them.
You've got a small studio up in Scotland, which I don't know if you want to include that in England, but they make a small game called the GTA up there.
Yeah, exactly. Tax dodge, mate. Tax dodge. That is. It's they get tax breaks in Scotland, but I honestly do believe the game's made in America. But I think they use a loophole with that studio. If you look it up, there's an old article from The Guardian, and it goes into American companies or big developers using Scotland
And Ireland.
As tax relief on games when the full game isn't really made there. They just, it's from a few years ago. I don't know if the tax breaks still exist. I don't know. But Scotland's a different place. But obviously still UK. But there was an article and it went into big companies using tax breaks of various places and GTA was on the list. It was. Didn't get in trouble for it because the game was actually made in Scotland, but I do believe that there's elements made in America still. There is. But yeah, I like that VJ, a little studio, GTA, Rockstar North, isn't it?
Barely noticeable.
No one knows who they are. They've made no money in this industry, no awards. They make one game every 15 years,
I was kind of hesitating to say it because you said it's made here, and I thought, okay, is it just England or is he including, I'm
surprised.
United Kingdom is the way I would place it.
Either these two will accept it or they'll throw it out, as in that don't count. But
I didn't know that, Luke. Apparently,
Wales doesn't mean I don't accept it.
Apparently, Rockstar's main development basically is within the UK. It's Rockstar North in Scotland. You might wonder BMG hasn't appeared in chat yet to say he's bought another copy of GTA 5.
Canada was a big one, right, for EA, Ubisoft, and now Sony, etc.
That's where the coalition is, I believe. Gears,
right? But they offered all sorts, and I think they still do, right? At the time, it's huge amounts of tax credits, R&D rebates as well, which I think the UK actually offers as well, but not as generous as Canada and perhaps a few other locations.
I think Ireland's pretty good for rebates. Yeah, definitely.
I want to start asking. The minute the election's on, they might start promising it.
But yeah, one of the things that Gina just mentioned that we said, Hellblade was made by 20 people, sequel was made by 80 people, and if I remember correctly, in terms of the actual development studio, I think their studio went up to 30, and the other 50 is what is it? I think they were saying the other 50 was third-party contractors. So it's picking up specialists' information and stuff like that.
It's rare as well.
Could be wrong, but I think the actual studio is still about 30-ish.
Okay.
But they did use a lot. They'd use a hell of a lot more people, third-party people within this one in terms of fidelity, sound, and definitely when it came to what's it called, video capturing. Because I think they use a lot of. I mean, they used video capturing, pretty good high fidelity video capturing for the character. But I think in this one they used high fidelity video capturing for landscapes as well.
Okay. I definitely need to give this a go. But I know BMG won't play this game because it's 30 frames per second. He won't play any games that's 30.
I would just say, just even if you try it for 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and it's not your cup of tea, you should still try it because we have a gaming conversation with friends as the main moniker for this channel. So it's just to broaden your horizons really, and just get a feel for it. Say, yeah, look, I had a little bit of experience of that game, so that's all it is. If you're interested in broadening your horizons,
I'll definitely try it. It's actually downloaded on the console, just I haven't pressed play yet. I will to try it, see what it's like, see if my jaw drops in amazement.
Can you? Because you're you have a PC and you've got Game Pass Ultimate. Can you play this on Xbox and on PC?
I have downloaded it on PC. I haven't played it yet. So yeah, because it's got Game Pass, I can download. I've downloaded it on PC.
It would melt his PC probably at the ultra high settings.
Well, let's see what Luke says about it. Luke knows my specs. I'm
over 100 frames per second on a 490 with DLS 3.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen for me. Luke's got a beast PC. I've got an alright PC, but it's not like Luke Steele's.
Yeah, but Luke Steele's is there for other things. His for his work as well, not just for gaming.
I don't imagine lawyers need high-end PCs.
He needs
high-end PCs to play Hades 2. Which he's now playing. I can see you, Luke. Steam, Luke is playing Hades 2. Just popped up.
I trust me, he needs that high-end PC to pick up all the huge amounts of legal data that's being flung at him, and all the the legal stuff that needs to be. It just has to deal with that so much amount of it. It's just like
it's unreal. But no, apparently Luke's saying my PC should be able to handle it at 60, no problem. He's saying so. I will try it on PC too. I will. I can report in next week. Yeah. Oh, you're on the Steam Deck. Okay.
Yeah, I would recommend using a headset though.
Oh no, I will use a headset most definitely.
I know you may not want to say sort of live, so we can talk about it offline. I just wanted to know, like, if you wanted to set up a PC with say a 27-inch monitor, etc., and you wanted to be able to hit 60 frames on most games, what sort of budget would you need to put a PC together? Or buy one off the shelf with
mine
with a decent graphics.
1,400 quid with the monitor and everything. But the person to speak to, if you want to, the person, the Luke Steele, he knows a bloody lot about computers. Or Indie Gamer, they both know a lot. They do, but it depends. Yeah, it all depends. I'm not the person to be asking about that. But Luke Steele, an Indie Gamer. Luke can literally order parts for a PC and then put them all together. He's that clever. I could not do that. I'd be terrified. I bought mine pre-built, then ordered the wrong case, had to get a different case, and luckily I know somebody at school, one of the dads that's a bit of a computer whiz, and he swapped my PC over into a new case. He did. 1,600 quid. Luke's saying.
Was he saying 15? I got it. I don't know what the equivalent will be here in the US, but my nephew
almost $2,000. About 18.
Sure, Luke will tell you. He will.
Yeah. And my nephew
actually saying that, you might get a bit of a deal, because I think a lot of the graphic cards are actually imported for the UK, so you might actually get a bit of a cheaper on some items versus what we do.
The
we get a
graphics
little
card
bit
prices do not drop. I tell you, they keep. From what I've been told by Luke,
we get high import tax, don't we? I'm
sure
we get
China.
higher.
Well, they're all made.
I think in the UK you've got. I mean, I know Luke is obviously probably not afflicted by it because he lives in Jersey, but yeah, the UK you've got your import duty, and then you've obviously got your VAT. So I don't know what the import tax rate in the US is, or what the
I don't know.
Or sales tax that they're act on board, but I'd say that the UK's and Europe in general is pretty heavy, right, when it comes to.
I'm not 100% sure. I think a PC built in the US is about 10% cheaper than what a UK version.
Because in America they don't pay what's it called? You know how all our electrical goods, they have tax and VAT, don't they? Well, in America they don't have that, do they? They just have sales tax. They don't have VAT stuck on, do they?
Yes,
that's probably why it's cheaper.
Yeah, sales tax are equivalent, right, of VAT.
Yeah, but Luke doesn't pay VAT.
It's what it is that apart from VAT, when you import goods from, I don't know what the rules are now post Brexit, but when you used to import products from overseas, doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a video game or a car or a deep fat fryer or whatever, they at customs they all have an import duty rate attached to them.
Yeah, they're bloody fags. They stick it on the fags, don't they? They love to.
That's a different terminology to our European neighbours.
Yeah.
So the import duty you can't avoid, and you cannot claim back, because obviously if you import something into the UK, then you export it. The only thing you can claim back is the VAT that you've paid during importation.
Yeah.
But you never get the import duty back.
No, you won't.
That's a fixed fee that you pay for bringing in products from across the border. So So you've got to consider that. So so import duty, for graphics card might be 10%. It may be 1% here in the US. I don't know. And then sales tax is our equivalent of VAT.
Okay.
Yeah.
We've obviously
Enjoy.
spoken about stuff which is probably pointless, really.
Yeah,
So I'm happy
wherever you are in the
it's
world,
alright.
you're going to get taxed, except maybe UAE. But yeah,
That's true. Anyway,
or Jersey.
what did
Eddie
you
Hey Hey.
think about WASD? It's been weeks. What did you think about? I haven't got any trailers up, but what's your opinion about this year's WASD you attended?
I absolutely enjoyed it. I think it was definitely better than last year's. It was a much more curated indie games this year. There was on the last year's one, I would say there was classified. There was some couple of big AAA publishing developers there. This year is a much more created based indie event. Is probably the best wording of it. Yeah, it was very much more. Yeah, it's very much more of I would say it's very much more diverse in terms of what was there and what wasn't there. It was something that you could easily see where they've put the money towards. They obviously changed the layout again this year as well. That I think that worked beneficial to it. No, again, I think I don't know if they're just doing it to keep it fresh and keep the event slightly different every year, where they're going to, or they're trying to find the perfect, what I'd classify as the perfect layout versus the perfect, publishers and developers and gaming situation. It was definitely worth going again, and I think I'll go again. Without a doubt, I'll go again next year if I can. It's one of the ones I still say is probably the best premiere event for indie gaming in the UK at this stage. It's still leaps and bounds, because all the other ones are basically just huge events with a tagged on 3 or 4 lines of indie games. So, for instance, I think it was EGX this year. They'll have the indie games as well.
I hear, but you'll probably tell me, is it right they've joined the Comic-Con group?
Yes.
There's something on about that, and they reckon that they reckon now EGX prices are going up 20% up or 20 quid up.
I'm not sure. They have sent me through the actual
something like that. There's a lot of people complaining about it.
Tickets now on sale.
Probably got the price wrong. Something like that. The Comic-Con. I don't know whether they're part of them or just partnered. Something to do with Comic-Con. It was.
Yeah, it has gone up. The price has gone up.
Has it gone up a lot?
Well, Friday priority, Friday general. So it's priority, which is an hour early, is £31.50. Friday general is £22.
Is that a tenner up?
Saturday priority is £39.
Yeah,
Saturday general is £32.
Wow.
And Sunday priority is £34. Sunday general is £23.
How much was it?
So I'm trying to think. I think it's gone up maybe about a £5.
Oh, well, okay. So I reacted then. It's not that much more.
I think £39 on a Saturday. I'm sure that was around 31.
What's the fee for?
The indie gamer has. He's not here. We need indie gamer to appear in chat. He would know. Where are you? No.
I could probably find out. I was just saying, I'm just trying to think of. Have I got my old price of the old? Because sometimes I keep a list of the old last year's price.
It's the fee to get in, basically, VJ. The price you paid to get in.
Removable. Like, are you not like because you do like reviews, etc. Are you are you still classified as somebody visiting, not as press, perhaps? Or you get a discount?
Yeah, Indy got in last year, so he didn't pay. So I didn't get in last year. You put your name down, and it's whether you get it, you get it. You don't, you don't. It all depends on
Understood.
the gods. I like to say. So I don't know. I can't spot it. I'm just going through my history. No, I haven't got the actual original prices of that. I think it's gone up about £5. Let me have a double check. But again, what's probably gone on well is the fact that it's now got Comic-Con. You probably would have had, like some people, I couldn't have gone to Comic-Con because it's like an extra day out at a completely different time. And so that's actually helpful because it means I can actually now go to 2 events in the case of 1. So I actually think that's going to be actually I think that's actually a good thing for it to kind of have 2 events in 1. And also with EGX, it, regardless if you were there around when it first started or is there at its heyday, it was like packed. The last year's event, it wasn't packed. There was large swathes of the area pretty much open and, they're empty. So with Comic-Con, I suspect it's probably actually good that this might actually make the event feel at least a little more packed than what it was previously.
Okay. Are you going, or are you just doing WASD this year?
No, I think I should be going. I've got to try and work out the time off. Yeah, I've got to try and work out the time off because it all ties up with my partner's. She works weekends and she works for NHS. So I've got to try and see if she can take the time off. She can take the time off, then she can look at she can look after the kids, and then I can go. So it's kind of more of what suits what can suit her sort of thing.
That's fair enough. Welcome to Invader Gaming. Thanks for popping in, mate. I appreciate it. But yeah, that's fair. I just thought I'd ask you about the WASD. So you reckon it's a good WASD?
I liked it.
Before I sidetracked you with the Comic-Con comment.
Yeah, it was I absolutely loved it. It's definitely still one of the events to go to. I would recommend, and it's cheap as well. It's not as expensive as EGX. It's one of those events that you can go to, you can enjoy, you can speak to the developers, you can speak to the publishers, you can easily get to as well, which is another thing. EGX is not always easy to get to for people who are maybe not familiar with London. With WASD, it is very simple. It's literally 5 minutes walk from Liverpool Street. So if you can get to Liverpool Street, you should be fine. Honestly, it's a very nice and simple route to get to. EGX is not always the case, unfortunately. But apart from that, yeah, I would say I would recommend it to anybody. I really would. Honestly, it's one of those events that it was needed, and it's needed to kind of keep going and expand further. And I would like it to. It's taken the EGX Res, and it's now moved it forward and done its own thing. And I think may it continue. I'm now looking at the video trailer you've dropping on there. I'm like, oh yeah, I know where we're going to go for this one. This will be a VJ one.
No, it's no topic. I just whacked it on. That was all.
Mine and VJ's sort of game, isn't it, VJ?
I haven't. Yeah. You missed it, didn't you? I think we whacked it on the week you couldn't make it.
Yeah. There was
We can talk about it, no problem.
No, I just wanted to mention one thing to Removal because he might have a take on this. Do you remember Lilith in Diablo? She has 2 separate eye colors. One eye, and this character in this game depicts the exact same eye colors. There's a condition for it. There's an actual real life condition for it.
That's right. And, one's David Bowie had, isn't it?
Yeah, David Bowie had it, and obviously I just did a bit of digging, and I thought there's no way that it's just been done. There's a as a sort of just sort of off the cuff.
Graphical
There's obviously
stylized choice.
there's obviously a deeper meaning to it, because obviously I was talking about sort of the Greeks and the Egyptians, and even the Anglo-Saxons, right? It's either witchcraft, or it's people that can see ghosts, or and obviously there's benevolent sort of beliefs behind it as well, depending on which cultures and what part of history in terms of the timelines, etc. And it was just interesting to see, and I'm just wondering how they might weave it into the game, into the story, or into gameplay. But it was just, I don't know if anyone picked up on it. I just picked up on it because I'd obviously just been playing Diablo and seeing Lilith, and then this trailer came along, and I thought, am I mistaken? And the colors of the eyes are identical as well, one gold, one blue. Yeah, it's identical. So it was just something that was more of a, there's a word for it, isn't there? Just
there is. It's a well-known condition. Yeah.
Yeah. But it was just a bit of just a bit of a coincidence, a happy, funny coincidence. Something like that. I tried to pronounce it last time, but I failed miserably. It was like I was chewing on well, let's just say four cakes at once or something when I pronounced it. But yeah, it was just really interesting, and just really curious to see how it's woved into the story, the gameplay, or mechanical, or the background to the character. But yeah, really cool, really interesting, and it was just something that I'd spotted. But other than that, no, I'm really looking forward to the game. I thought the soundtrack sounded quite phenomenal, especially the battle music, which is also always key especially when it comes to games like this, because you do spend a lot of time in dungeons and in combat in general. And they've changed up the combat system in this as well, so it's not like Persona where it's purely turn-based. Depending on the level of characters, you can actually enjoy real-time action if you feel confident that you can take the enemies out. And obviously, if you want to be a little bit more strategic, you can go into turn-based mode, which I think is a really cool option, and something that I think that when Dragon Quest XII was announced about 3 years ago, something that they were aspiring to. And it's interesting that that Atlas hopefully have cracked the formula with this release, and it was something that Dragon Quest XII. They announced that they wanted to change. Well, it was one of the parts of their major announcement that they wanted to change up the combat system from traditional turn-based to more of an action-based gameplay model for modern-day gamers. So, but yeah, all in all, you're spot on. It's I'm super looking forward to this game, especially after playing Persona 3 Reload.
Yeah, like it's one of those. And also it looks like it's I like the fact it seems more gothic.
Yeah,
it has a very much a more gothical style. Persona was very much more, as you said, modern day schoolboy sort of standard. I wouldn't say standard, but you know what I'm saying. It had that traditional Japanese sort of storytelling aspect to it. Well, this seems as much more gothical, almost like I'm trying to think. Dracula
kind of,
almost-esque sort of version.
It's kind of like I think Gothic, Victorian era, but with some sort of no, not cyberpunk. What's that? Steampunk elements in terms of technology, etc. So it's I was trying to think of an anime that was similar to
Castlevania. This is what I was thinking of. It's very much Castlevania-esque, isn't it?
Like a modern Castlevania, like sort of like almost like Howl's Moving Castle to some degree. Howl's Moving Castle,
and demons, and gothic. It's definitely something I'm looking forward to. I'm like, ooh, metaphor.
Is the Howl's Moving Castle the one? It is the one, right, where his home like turns into like a castle, and then
yes, it is Howl's Moving Castle. Yes.
Yeah, so it reminded me of that as well. So it's got lots of cool elements in it, removable, I think, and some of the design is fantastic. And when you're traveling around, I don't know if you saw the present. When you're traveling around from location to location, you can actually the ship You can actually go into your ship, and while it's traveling there, and do all sorts of stuff, to prepare, cook, speak to comrades, upgrade your weapons while you're actually making your way there. If you don't want to fast travel, which I think is fantastic.
This looks like it leans more into it. I enjoyed Persona, but I did feel it a little bit. It's one of those games that I just felt it's a bit samey, and it's because, and I know why. I felt Persona was a little bit samey for me when it came to it. Was that it was just I've watched enough anime, and so it felt like it was just the anime, not regurgitated, but reintroduced. But in there wasn't a story that I probably hadn't seen, or the story it was going down through, because it was I'm so used to that sort of genre.
I'll tell you what it is, Removal. We were just talking about game length in terms of Hellblade. What was interesting is that, and this is nowhere criticism, because I love Persona 5 and Royale, and I love Persona 3. But there are, I think what, I don't know if this is correct, so forgive me if I've sort of inferred incorrectly, is the fact that there's certain parts of the Persona games where the sequences or events, they drag on for too long. They sort of outlast their welcome, and like those. And there's so much. I forgot. There's a word for it in dialogue when you just carry on for way too long. A bit like when I talk, and you can make your point a lot more narrow. So there's sequences in the game that could have been shorter, that could have been more effective and have more impact, but they drag out certain events, and I think that's probably to do more with the planning of the game. They can't really take it back. And redo certain sequences, but with this game, I hope that because they managed to tighten it up with Persona 5. I haven't played Persona 4, but in Persona 3 it dragged. But I'm hoping that, like, what's that expression? You refine your art as each game goes along. So and this is why I was saying, if they end up doing Hellblade 3 or something with the technology that they've created, no doubt it will, move ahead, right, in terms of their output.
Yeah, I mean, that was part of it. But also it was just the genre which Persona 5 is set in. I've seen it to death, and it's not a fault of Persona 5. It's a fault of my own, because I generally enjoy those stories where they're set in with with the schoolboy who's powerful, or schoolgirl, or those stories. In fact, I'm actually going through I'm watching an anime currently right now, which is your standard tall schoolboy, schoolgirl. They somehow got into a new world, and now they're going through trying to work things out, and it's like,
what's it called?
It's oh, hang on, I've got to try and get.
You can't tease us. You can't tease us and then not tell us what it is.
It's on Netflix at the moment, and it is High Rise Invasion.
Oh, High Rise Invasion.
And it's that sort of little bit where I'm like, I'm used to that genre, so therefore for me, it's nothing new. It doesn't knock the games. It doesn't knock the game's credibility. It does not name's playability. For me, it was just I've seen it kind of all. I've seen the stories already play out in a vastly numerous amount of ways, and so I kind of was already guessing where things were going ahead.
You're ready for a fresh setting, right?
Yes, and this is what this does. This looks like it's a fresh setting. I don't really haven't looked into a lot of the Castlevania aspects, Gothic aspects, so I'm kind of now getting into that sort of Gothic sort of genre, and so this now plays into that, where it's like, this is something I haven't kind of spent as much time in, so therefore I'm more excited for it. That's one of the reasons that it was like, it wasn't the gameplay. The gameplay was suitable and it's enjoyable and it's very intriguing. I absolutely loved everything about it, but it's just like the setting, and that was a me problem, not a.
No. Of course, no. I completely understand, and that's why when we talk about on this show, if I can call it this show, we talk about games and maybe not playing them at release. Timing is always critical when you play a specific game. Like, you're kind of ready for it, and
exactly. And it could be like in a year's time, I'm gonna be like, do you know what? I need to hit Persona again, and move that into it and stuff like that. And there'll be times where I'm like, do you know what? I'm really feeling it, and I'll go straight into it. It's like with every genre, I kind of like, You feel it or don't feel it. And just for the moment, it's like one of my favourite games at the moment was Code Vein, because it was a gothic side game. But I don't, Dark Souls is a gothic like game, but I didn't like that sort of that one. But the Code Vein is very much an anime-esque gothic sort of situation. I really enjoyed that. I haven't found any other anime gothic games that I could really get into. This does look like that. It does kind of, yeah. And it's one of the ones I think I'll probably end up be like, I'm going to be probably grabbing hold of this.
Because talking of gothic, because I just finished watching a couple of months back the I don't know if you want to call it, it's like they did Castlevania seasons 1, 2, and 3, and then they restarted it with a new writing team, Castlevania season 1 on Netflix, and I was kind of thinking, do I want to play Castlevania? And then I saw this game, and I thought, okay, I can totally sort of. I'm in your sphere of understanding.
You can understand the reason behind it, yeah.
Yeah, because I've been watching Demon Slayer and Death Note and Neon Genesis Evangelion as well, alongside Delicious in Dungeon, and I hadn't watched it. There was another movie I watched, Paprika, as well, which I thought was fantastic. Anime movie. So, but there's some fantastic anime stuff out there, and it's really nice to see this game because I kind of know where you're going. It's kind of a video game
anime.
Because I looked at Death Note on Netflix, and it looked like it were real people. It wasn't anime.
There's Death Note anime, which was it's Death Note manga. Then it went to Death Note anime. Then they often go to Death Note film.
Oh, so I've looked at the wrong thing. Okay.
No, it's Death Note it probably is retelling the story of Death Note, but it's just a live film action version of it.
Okay.
So, for instance, Ghost in a Shell. Ghost in a Shell was a manga, then it went to anime, and it was more well known in the anime, and over time it then got translated into film with Scarlett Johansson and stuff like that. So there is general stages for it to push through. For instance, the recent Akira Toriyama Sandland was very much heavily manga. Then recently, in fact, only quite recently, I think it was last year, went into anime and has now and kind of think it's been translated into film as well now. Again, it's a live action one, but it's been into film, and now it went into a game. So there are ways it kind of gets moved across. But yeah, I think that I would often, if you're going to read anything, I'd do the manga first, and then the anime. And then I've always been a bit hesitant with films or live action films because they're
you said manga
really badly,
manga
really well.
It brought up a memory from when I went to college to do sound engineering. I was with this guy, right, on the course, right, one of the classmates, not knowing that he was a hacker. He used to, the public accessible computers back in the day, people didn't know what was secure and what was not. Well, he used to do something on the keyboard, and he used to get everyone's bank details, and he would order Magna to his house. He did.
You mean manga?
Manga to his house, DVDs and that. He nicked people's bank details.
Well, it wasn't as secure back in the day, but
back then he was like, I don't think he ever got arrested, but the police turned up. I don't think he ever got arrested. But he was a bit of a bullshit. He kept saying, my dad owns a big recording studio in Leeds. He says, why ain't you working for him then? Oh, well, he wants me to learn and all. I think fucking bull. He was all right, but I realised what he was. But he probably got done in the end because he was doing something. And he said, what are you doing? Oh, I just do really fast on the keyboard. Years ago it was. Back when things weren't secure and you shouldn't have been doing that kind of stuff on it. Yeah, but no, carry on, sorry. Just when you were saying that word, I remember. Long time ago. Yeah.
But yeah, just generally, I'd read the manga first, then there goes the anime, and then it generally at some point will either get into a live action. Live action translations never really work.
Okay.
They lose the charm and the fantasy of it. regardless of where it's well done. Don't get me wrong, some I have seen the odd one that has kind of worked really well.
Yeah.
There was a good one. I think it's Home, Sweet Home. I think it was original manga that went translated into a series that was done really well. It's some of them, but generally the live action ones are generally not very well done, in my opinion. Some people would have have a different view, but in my opinion, but yeah, if you're going to watch it, anime and manga will probably be the best to kind of tie yourself in. Which kind of says, does it, VJ? Would you know? Is this based on a manga? I don't.
I beg your pardon.
Is this game based on a manga original?
I don't think so. I mean, the creators for the visual style, for the gameplay, for the game direction, and the composer are all from the Persona games. So I
Do you
believe
think
it's
it's
an
a fresh
original IP.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Removable. If this was an anime or a manga, you'd have known about it. Listening to what
as much as I'd like to think I'm that high tier up, no, I'm not. Trust me, there's a lot of manga. I mean, I didn't even realize about Akira Toriyama's Sandland. That shows you how off the mark I am. There is, there is some serious. It's weird. I seem to know really obscure animes and manga, or your basic standard ones. Nothing in between.
There's just so much of it, and it's easy to. I haven't come across anybody that knows all of them, because every time I speak to you or I speak to Masuko, there's always titles that I haven't even heard of. But it kind of, I mean, for example, I watch One Piece, on and off, because there's just so many of them. So I watch it every now and then.
100. Was it? They said is it 142 episodes?
No. There's about 1,000, I think.
Wow.
But the thing is,
142 episodes is the first season, isn't it, or something like that, or like something silly like
I
that. 1,000.
Yeah, you're right. It's over 1,000 episodes, but it's like 142 episodes is their first season or something like
what
that.
What program is this? Sorry,
Jeez.
which anime is this? There's 1,000 episodes of
One Piece.
One Piece.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they've done a live action film of that as well, haven't they?
I won't watch that. But what I will say is that, look, the manga may or may not be accessible to you, Mr. Stubbs, like cheaply, but there's no excuse not to watch the animes on. And the thing is, I know you've got a family and you're a busy man, so you'll be happy to know that if you take off the end credits and you take off the intro, they're only 18-minute episodes, so you will have time to consume them one by one.
I could give it a watch. I enjoyed Howl's Castle as well. I like that.
That's a film, though.
I know that's a film. I liked it. I did.
But just on Death Note, because I know that Luke's mentioned it, there was an episode removal which I've always liked. I think it's called Overcast. It might be I think it's episode 7 or 8. And that one of the best episodes in the
is that where the detective works out who the Death Note owner is?
Yeah, and he's trying to figure out what her real name is.
Yes, sure. Yeah, I know the one you're talking about.
I really like that episode. And for me, manga, because obviously the visual styles evolved, techniques have evolved, but for me, it just, from watching manga or seeing anime, it just brings back memories of times of living in that part of the world, or visiting that part of the world. So it's and when you're over there, this stuff's all over the place. So you can't.
Yeah, it's
so it's
but
it's a really good storytelling format.
Sorry.
And I think it's quite influential, more so than we would believe, in terms of how it influences other artists in other fields, and no less gaming.
Okay.
I don't know if Removal can add to that or not.
There's nothing more to add. To be honest, it's true. It is actually true. There is so many. It's like as Luke said, Attack on Titan, Food Wars. There is a vast, and Netflix is producing more anime content now, and it is coming up with new original IPs.
It must
as well as
mean,
old
though,
franchises.
that they've had an increase, or the numbers are doing well in the anime. It must be doing well.
This is it. I've spotted. So currently, right now,
Netflix are quite quick to drop stuff, aren't they? If it ain't working.
Yes. Well, currently, right now, at the time there was only 2 real places to watch anime, and that was Crunchyroll.
That's it.
And what was the other one?
Comixology? No, sorry. That's a comic place that ain't don't exist anymore.
It's the other one they got. Sony took over anyway. It was
My Anime.
See, but Sony took over Crunchyroll.
Yes, so they've taken over the other one, which is why they've now got the
other one.
Is it My Anime?
I think it's My Anime. I know it's the other one I used to watch on a regular basis. I think it is My Anime, but they basically have now got both of those, so they now have a monopoly on anime.
They've also got Removal. Yeah, they've also bought. I just wanted to say, Removal, just on that monopoly bit, is that, sorry to interrupt, that they did the latest presentation, and I saw that they've got quite a few production houses now as well for anime that they've brought up or they've established. Really? Yeah.
Oh.
And they're pouring more funding into those as well. That they've mentioned to produce more anime.
Sometimes throwing money at things doesn't give you a great result.
Well, we know that, don't we?
Are you trying to segue into the Xbox topic there?
It's just
it's on his mind, obviously, Mr. Stubz. It's on his mind.
It's just we've seen it before. Especially, it's just like And to be honest, those 2 are taken up. So Netflix has definitely started within the last year. I noticed anime coming into the series. I've been watching a couple of them. So they have done some unique anime. They're dropping in some new franchises. And I will say, if you have Netflix, they do have a very good selection of anime on there.
They do.
At the moment.
That's where I'm going after the show.
Disney also has some, and Amazon has a few.
Disney's got some. Oh, right.
Oh, yeah. But I've found them to be... They're just like the regurgitated ones, the old ones, kind of just like dropped in. You
can if you're not sure,
I got my dad's Disney, so I can have a look.
Yeah, no, it's just that on Disney and Prime, if you're not sure about an anime and you don't want to pay, whatever without ads or whatever, you can. They sometimes offer you like the first series. If it's if it's got multiple series, you can always sometimes watch the first series, and then decide if you want to, pursue it and watch all 3 or 4 on a paid subscription service or so on and so forth. Because I think as Removal was saying, there's so many good animes and they are a little bit spread out. But I'm assuming, is everything available on Crunchyroll Removable, or is it just primarily?
I would say
Luke's saying that Netflix is great, but get a Crunchyroll subscription.
Crunchyroll is probably, I would say, is the top tier premier place at this stage for existing and new anime content. I would say that's probably it. If you're just starting out as an anime person, Netflix is probably a good start if you don't know what sort of anime you're into or you're trying to just see what is around and what you like. But if you're an anime fan, Crunchyroll would be the one that I would recommend to go through because there is just so much. And it ties in, if I remember correctly, I think it's 3 hours after Japan, you get it, then it has everything, I think whatever's produced on Japan, 3 hours later it's on that site as well. So it's not far. It's not off. It's not far off from
That's really good.
whatever's been new and fresh coming out of Japan. It's literally 3 hours later and it's on that site. So I definitely Crunchyroll is something I would recommend. If you're trying to just get stuff aside, Netflix has got a nice selection.
They do have really. I wanted to ask you. I tried Demon Slayer. I didn't get on with it at first, and I started it again, and I kind of hooked on it. So I thought it was really good.
The dubbed version or the true version? I like to classify it.
I think no, Netflix, it allows you to choose the original dialogue as well as if you want it in English. So I'll be honest with you, if I'm tired and I want to watch, then I'll play it in English. If I'm okay, then I'll watch it in Japanese with English subtitles. So it just really depends on if my eyes are tired.
Demon
so
Slayer has got actually a really good dubbing. It's one of the ones that is actually better dubbing. The reason I say, the reason why I say sometimes watching the Japanese one is just that the dubbing. There's been a bit of a dubbing controversy in the last couple of months, where Western voiceovers have been. What's the best way of doing this? They have been implementing their own particular terminology into it and not being faithful to that of the Eastern terminology. So what I mean by that is they will put it in different contexts. That's it, different context versus what the Eastern terminology is.
You can definitely spot. You can definitely spot that in the subtitle. I mean, I was watching Evangelion, and I was saying, hang on a minute, I'm watching an English dub. It actually doesn't correlate with the English subtitles whatsoever. And it's all like, what? There's completely different sentences there. So I thought, okay, I'm not going to watch this. I'm going to wait till I'm fresh, then I'll watch it with the Japanese dub and English subtitles. And even with One Piece, it's difficult to watch it with the English dub because I just can't handle the voices. I have to watch it in Japanese. So,
I think it's also recently is that it's the more modern anime has also having a lot of issues at the moment where Western voice actors are taking a little bit of liberties with the Eastern dialogue because they may not accept the Eastern dialogue's particular takes on things or how that culture translates over to Western audiences.
In fear of offending or being politically incorrect in those terms, or
both. But in doing so, then they're not being truthful to the nature of the story or the context.
Yeah.
So one thing is in terms of gender and those aspects, Japan has a very different view on that, and so therefore it talks about it very differently. And so they're now finding a lot of Western audiences are now trying to put their own spin on that, and that isn't going down very well.
Yeah, I remember on Neon Genesis Evangelion there was a bit of an uproar in terms of there was something pertaining to the sexuality of the characters, the boys, and in terms of love and etc. Those sort of sort of touching on those sort of topics, and the dialogue was completely changed and the subtitle was changed in terms of the dubbing and the subtitles, which obviously someone well versed in anime picked up, and then people aren't particularly happy about it. I mean, I'm okay with it because it's not like a huge part of the plot, but I can see that they're saying that they're not staying authentic to the original creators' intention of what they wanted to portray. I guess that's kind of the sort of thing I know there's probably a scale to it and a degree to it, but I guess that's the sort of stuff.
I think it's a question of then is it acceptable to manipulate the creator's intent for a Western audience?
Yeah.
You know, and that was the thing. I don't think the Eastern developers appreciated it either until it was pointed out. So it's done. It wasn't even done with their acknowledgement, and that kind of felt pretty damning as well. I suspect it would have been more favourable if they had got the original content creators' approval.
And even just their consent, definitely.
Yeah, it's like going to a Dark Souls and going, oh, it's created in Japan, it comes over to the USA, and they automatically put in an easy mode for it without their consent.
You shouldn't do that.
You can imagine how that would go down really well.
Or something even subtle like changing it from Dark Souls to Darkest Souls or something. in terms of
Yeah.
the game or something like that. Because oh no, Darkest will be a better fit for our they
Yeah.
treat their creators with far more respect, and on an even keel with
I
the
think
people that fund it versus what they do here in the West. Yeah.
this is the thing. I think if you're going to play Japanese, or if you're going to play Eastern games, you have to take on board Eastern cultural sensitivities and accept that Eastern stories are based on Eastern cultures and Eastern's lookout and outlooks. Very different when they are very different from the Western outlooks, and you can see that in just the way some of these animes are just absolutely crazy. But it's because of their different way of outlooks that isn't quite fun. And like for Yakuza, the Yakuza series, guys in nappies, the way they have that sort of
like say,
just craziness. Some people would find that horrific. I found it absolutely humorous. And it's these little things, that I think if you're going to be truthful, if you're going to take on board games from different cultures, you should at least stick with the game's ethos and gaming design intent, whether or not you agree with it, regardless. And then obviously you just literally let those who wish to buy it know that there'll be certain things that may or may not you may not like, and leave it up to the consumer to decide. I don't think an intent should be changed. I don't think it should be outside changed. I think it should be left pure and let the consumer person kind of decide upon that.
Exactly. That's true. You never change.
And that's it. Like he says, another reason for PC, because with PC you can literally just
I just had a
get
quick
the original terminology and phrasing back to exactly how it was. What was you saying, Vijay?
No, I was going to say, I was going to say, I checked out that game that Luke mentioned, and there was one game I regret not playing on the Switch. I don't know if you guys remember. It was called Astral Chain.
Yep.
Yeah, I kind of really wanted to try that game. I never got around to it.
I really hope that more of the games transition over different platforms, because I think that would be really good. Like, for instance, Stellar Blade. I think they were trying to look at making it PC. Good on him. I think it's a good idea. I'd like it to make it come to Xbox too, to be honest with you. I think it looks really fun. It looks really good. If it comes down in say 2025 or 20, I'm happy with that.
Yeah.
It's still money. It's still money.
Well, you say, I had a random thought the other day, and I don't think it's random. I'm sure I've mentioned it. It's like, I know it probably won't happen, but like even for Xbox, and I talked about this when they bought Bethesda. I said, look, just if you're going to release it in Game Pass, just release Starfield on Xbox, on PlayStation and PC, whatever, for $60-$70. And I was even thinking that what if you want to release Starfield or whatever on PlayStation, or say if it was launching in 6 months' time or whatever, say look, it's going to be free in Game Pass, but we're charging on PlayStation, we want to charge PlayStation gamers $90, but okay, fine, you're picking up, you're charging extra because they're not buying your hardware, and you need to recoup your development costs. But one, it's available on other formats. Number two, you're generating more income, and thirdly, you're building a gaming utopia, and fourthly, you're advertising the fact that look, if you buy an Xbox, you can play it
for free on the Game Pass. Yeah.
So it's available everywhere. Everybody understands the pricing structure, but I don't know if there's a rule, economical rule or a competition rule where you can't put it in your hardware as a platform holder. You can't put it in your system for 70 and then launch it on somewhere else for 90 for some legal reason. I don't know, but there's some point. There's got to come a point of convergence where more content is available.
I think that's coming. I think that's happening. I think we're seeing that more now. I
wanted it 4 years ago.
Oh god, yeah. It's the fact that it's translating over to PC more gives you a hint of where things are moving forward. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, we've seen some stuff now hitting place, like some, in some like Persona, for instance.
Yeah.
Would you have known to talk about that ever coming to Xbox?
Yeah.
So things are they're transitioning. Things are moving their way across. It's just a case of.
I don't think you can deny, given the number of units Helldivers has sold without any marketing. We were talking about it on the last show.
Yeah.
And the kind of number of units, what is it, 12 million it's announced, plus whatever else they've sold on it, and then majority being on PC. I think even a corporation like Sony can't deny it. But Japanese companies are typically very cautious in terms of when they make switches, transitions, or strategic changes, and that's fine. It's just like you say, removable. There are games from the past that you wonder if, I don't know who owns Astral Chain or who made. I think it was Platinum Games, but I don't know who owns the IP. But for example, if it was a Platinum Games IP, I'd love to see it on PlayStation or PC, and Xbox rather than just on the Switch. But it's just, I'm not saying that particular game. I'm just saying in terms of.
I see what you're saying. And as you already said, after a couple of years, for me, it just makes sense. Exactly. So it's like, okay, you've got this game. You didn't get it at launch. It's 2 years down the line. Most games have a shelf life of about a year.
Yeah, they do.
I'll give you a perfect example. I'll give you a perfect example. Removable. So, the Matrix movies and the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies are on HBO primarily, but you can find them from time to time on Netflix or Amazon Prime. And obviously, they pay the license fee. For the duration that they want it, or depending on how many people watch it, or for the duration that you want it on your platform. So if it's happening, with other content, because there's income based on it, and not everybody's got a HBO subscription, and
exactly.
Netflix does have almost double the amount of subscribers that HBO does have. So why not? So I think, you're right. It's just a case of, I think, some corporations saying, well, if we take this risk, what if it backfires? And there's always going to be board members that suggest that, right? But when the financials,
with new games, I fully understand the reasoning not to do so. With your older,
you can't argue against it.
You're basically, as you said, it's cash left on the table. It's cash left on the table. So I suspect there may be some. The trouble is, I expect it's probably a marketing deal or something like that will stop that. But still,
no, I'm with you. I mean, there's only to a certain degree, for a certain number of years, for a certain period, that you can, out of fear, perhaps, maintain the status quo. But at some point, their financials and the analytics will tell you otherwise, and then you're a certain size company where, like you say, cash on the table, left on the table. Sorry, I forgot what the term was you just mentioned, is undeniable, and even the most hardened detractor from, or reticent detractor from, what you should do, or versus what you don't want to happen, or what the fear may be as to why you're against it, dissipates, and you have to go with what makes sense.
Well, it's one of those things. Time will only tell.
You are. I mean, I'm all for them all being on all platforms at once. I don't see it's all coming.
Yeah, you only want that because you'll get to play the tutorials on more format.
Yeah, exactly. You've caught me out there. Tell you what, though, you got me looking at Steam because I looked up the game Luke was talking about, which looks quite good.
Yeah.
But Planet Coaster removable, not that you've got a PC, it's £1.50 on sale. That's a 90% discount.
Wow.
I've got it on Xbox. There must be some kind of sale on. There's loads of games. There must be some kind of sale.
Oh yeah, they always do some sales, don't they?
But yeah. What about Xbox? I mean, sorry, Bethesda shutting down Arkane Austin then, and Tango Gameworks. Tango Gameworks were apparently a successful studio, according to Hi-Fi Rush. It was critically acclaimed. It won awards. Xbox executive Aaron Greenberg even came out. It was a success. Xbox's version of success has changed, obviously. What do you reckon, you two?
Can we do it this format? I'd like Removable to speak on it. And Removable, is it okay if I just chime in here and there?
Yeah, I mean, layoffs is part of the industry,
That's true.
and I just think some people forget. I mean, you wouldn't hear about this in any other industry. You really wouldn't. The mash of uproar. Oh, there's been massive layoffs in the plumbing industry.
Yeah,
Really?
you really wouldn't.
Massive layoffs in the electrical industry. Oh, okay. You don't hear that at all from. You don't hear about it in the gaming.
You don't. No.
And to be honest with you, it's exactly the same. The troughs and peaks for every industry is where all of a sudden when it's good, they'll do a lot more hiring. When it's bad, they'll do a lot more firing. And it's the same thing when you buy new studios. You have to ask yourself, why was the studios being sold in the first place? Just because one good game works for them doesn't mean they've got huge debts. And so they're easily acquired. And if you have a company that's easily acquired, what makes you think that staff is going to stay around from the new company? It doesn't. It doesn't happen like that whatsoever. It doesn't happen in any other industry. If you get an electrical company and they buy up at a competing electrical company, do you think they keep the original staff? Not probably. No, they probably get rid of a load of them.
They usually, when companies, it's like even in pest control in the UK, when they buy up pest control companies, they normally lay off like half the workforce. Try and slim it down to make money.
Of course it is. Yeah. And it's the same thing with the gaming industry. It's bad. I'm not saying it's nice, without a doubt. I'm not saying I sing, but to be honest with you, it's business. And business is ruthless. It will come in and it will take over and it will manipulate it. Now, the question is going to be them, once they've fired these studios, once they've got rid of all these other elements, once they've shut down certain studios and got rid of staff, what's the knock-on effect? This is going to be the most intriguing one, and this is where the industries that I've seen often miscalculate. My own company included got rid of a whole load of staff.
You survived. Well done. It means you're valuable.
Well, I was about to say is, and made a fatal error. They are now trying to get those staff back.
Fuck's sake!
Because
man.
Yeah, they fired a whole load of staff. I said to them they were being idiots, because I said, look, some of the work that was coming in, it was like umming and ahhing. And I said, look, it's always what happens after your April and May deadline in the UK. Yeah. For those who don't know, April is our final fiscal year. And generally around that period, lots of people are looking at their financials for those first 2 months to work out what is their budget. And then after that, it's a big, huge ramp up, and budgets like we need to get moving. And it's exactly what happened again. People are in for that period where they're trying to work out their financials. And I suspect it's exactly the same with other industries. April and May is where people will be looking at their financials, see where they can make cuts, costs, and then projects come on board. Projects still need to be done, and as a bit like the company I was, they're now trying to get that staff back, and they can't. So they've cocked up, and that's going to come down on someone's head. And this is the case for Microsoft. Microsoft has bought up a whole load of studios, got rid of a whole load of studios. Is it going to come back to bite them in a couple of months' time? That is the crux of where it'll be. So that's going to be the teller, I think.
That's true.
They're doing what any business does: hire, buy, fire. It's part and parcel of the procedure. It's part and parcel of the industry. What we'll be telling is the ramifications of that decision. Are games going to be shelved? Are games going to be a poorer quality because of it? And those are the things that will tell you where, if Microsoft made bad decisions, because you don't know. So some of these studios, like for instance, as you said, the Hi-Fi Rush studio did a game that they said was a winner.
I reckon
it made money.
I know you're
was that studio already behind in its finances?
But I know it was
hugely in debt.
It was critically successful on Game Pass, but didn't sell didn't sell much. That's all I think about the game. It probably was successful in Game Pass and engagement and so on, but I guarantee it didn't sell many copies.
You can't say that. You can't.
Well,
say
okay, I
it.
guarantee. I guess it didn't sell many copies
because it said it's also on PC as well, so you don't know how much that was sold.
True.
But also, the biggest thing about that is, does one game solve a failing?
Nope.
A failing game studio's problems? No, it doesn't. So yes, that game may have absolutely killed it, and that it doesn't mean it solved the game studio's problems. I mean, this game studio was like 3 million in debt.
Wow.
And it changed that 3 million debt to 2 million in debt. Yay! They're still in debt, So it's a case of, I think, taking everything with a pinch of salt, appreciating this is the way industry goes, and hoping that it will now become a build-up for new developers to come forward. Because what I've seen previously is that once people have lost their jobs, unfortunately, once they go and these studios are bought, sold, and kind of, broken down and sold off, new studios pop up. I'm hoping this is where newer, better studios will come from its position and from its place. So I'm hoping that talent, I don't think will just die off. I think that talent will just move to a different location. Then it could be different platforms, different studios. Hell, they may even be going to the indie side where they create their own brand new platforms. That's happened a few times. Just to say this is the worst thing in the world, at this stage, I agree, it is not good. But I like to look on the positive side of things. And my positive side is this is the dip, it will rise from this. And that's what we've seen generally when it comes to, the way industry works. It's troughs and dips and rise and troughs and dips. My brain's going, sorry.
Peaks and troughs.
That's it, peaks and troughs, that was it, yes.
No, it's
am I talking bollocks?
No, it's a good perspective. You really have a better, because you're in industries and you are right. You wouldn't hear on the news mass layoffs in the electrical industry, mass layoffs in the plumbers. You wouldn't hear.
You do hear some of those, but the irony is you don't.
It's usually a big company
context.
that's probably gone under. Then you hear about it.
You don't hear like, mother and pop shop, small electrical shop that's been bought out by a big electrical shop. They've been laid off. You don't hear about these things because it's just part and parcel of the way it is. And it's the same thing with the gaming industry. It is just part and parcel of the industry itself. Is it great? No, I don't like it. Do I think that a whole lot of people losing their jobs is great? No, I don't. What I'm hoping and what I do believe is that a majority of those people will probably find and move on to better things, or they'll start their new studios, their own studios, which will then produce better things. Is it shitty at that moment when it happens? 100%. But it probably was shitty from the previous time it happened. How many studios have been bought and broken down and got rid of? Hundreds. Some that you probably didn't even realise existed.
You only have to look at Electronic Arts' track record.
Exactly. Perfect example. And I can guarantee you a lot of those people have moved on to better studios. Like one of my favourite games, Mad Max, which was actually coming out recently on Twitter, the Avalanche Studios, they got split up, and a lot of them have moved on to better stuff now.
It's always good to hear. It is.
So it's the outrage to me is a little bit either misunderstood of the way the industry works, or just a little bit kind of virtuous. It's like, I need to say it.
The problem is they look at big bad Microsoft as a $2 trillion company. Oh, they can afford it. That's what they see. You see.
No, I think it's more than that. I think it's opinion. I think it's desire, and I think it's for most people that are that are outraged are, I don't say everybody, are the fact that they have a biased opinion that Xbox was on a trajectory, and finally they were making inroads into countries like Japan with deals with Sega, deals with Atlas, and obviously now acquiring a well-respected studio in Tango Softworks. But not one of the YouTubers or people tweeting put down the fact that this might be related to the captain of the ship, Shinji Mikami, leaving and leaving the studio perhaps slightly rudderless. And if Shinji goes, I know other people that work at Tango, those guys are loyal to him. They worked with him in Capcom before they set up Tango Softworks. They would have gone with him as well. So there's a shell left there. And the question you've got to ask, and this is going into, I think everything Maruval said is totally correct. Gaming industry, probably the movie industry, and perhaps the music, the film industry, are very transient industries in terms of talent coming and going, actors coming and going, etc. So what you've got to look at, I think, the other thing that I think that people have a fair point here is with Xbox finally trying to have more strategic relationships in Japan, trying to mend relationships, but with Hironobu Sakaguchi when he made what was that, Blue Dragon, and there was another one that he made, and then they let him go, and they seem to be they don't seem to have a real logical strategy there in Japan, especially when they just took, I think it was someone from the head of Sony Gaming as their CFO or CEO or something like that, some sort of operational public figure coming out and saying a month before, the Japanese video game studios need Xbox, and they closed down, which arguably probably was their flagship studio. So I think what thing was perturbing some people, and I was a little bit surprised with Tango until I looked into it, then I wasn't. But the fact that it's not a great advert, and it's kind of counter to what the left hand is doing. The right hand seems to be, what's that word, removable, when they do the opposite. It's kind of doing the opposite to what, they speak of the strategy and they countermand it by taking an action which is counter to what the strategy is, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird, and it wasn't a bigger studio.
Was that,
right?
as you said, is that hand that's been dealt by? It sounds like from what you just confirmed. I didn't realise that actually the head had kind of were basically left. That sounds to me as if, it sounds to me it's the hand that was dealt to them rather than the choice.
But like
so in a way, it was
someone like Mikami Mikami can't give a 1 month, wouldn't have given a 1 month notice. He'd have had to give 6 months to 12 months. That's how Microsoft typically work. So
yeah, that's Microsoft. What I'm saying is Tango though. Yeah. Is Tango owned by him?
Bethesda.
Yeah, it's owned by Bethesda. It's a Bethesda studio, and then they picked up Bethesda, ZeniMax. They bought out ZeniMax, right? So that ZeniMax, Tango Softworks was part of the Bethesda group, right? Part of the ZeniMax group.
What I'm saying is
yeah,
just because Bethesda owns it doesn't mean Tango's loyalty is being bought as well.
My point is this: the acquisition was made 24 months ago.
Tango was part of the acquisition. It was.
Yeah, and I think regardless of the fact whether Shinji wanted to go, whether they could have put a succession plan in, but I think what perturbed consumers removable is that he would have having to give a 9 to 12 month notice period, right? But it was only 2 months ago people were posted, Sarah Bond was posting, knowing full well the situation, posting the fact that they're in Japan and the fact that they're going to many more, I don't know, whatever, many more successful games to come from this studio, onwards and upwards.
That's what I'm saying is it sounds, if I'm going to be the caveat here, where is we say he's supposed to give 9 to 12 months, right?
Yeah.
That's 9 to 12 months to Bethesda. That may not be 9 to 12 months to Tango. Tango has an agreement with Bethesda. Now, if that's the case, doesn't necessarily mean that those agreements would have had to kind of go through their own progression. So once you bought Bethesda, you go, now all the IPs are yours, fantastic. Now they have to go through the same thing again with every single individual studio. It wouldn't be just a straightforward transition. Your product is exactly my product, because it doesn't work that way. So my gut feeling is I reckon there was a back and forth with the Tango boss, and he didn't sign the 9 to 12 month period. There's a potential of that just was never signed. So in very well maybe the fact that they thought, oh, there's still
I'd have to say removable. Like I've been in, well, Luke's been in probably more mergers and acquisitions than I have, but that would be kind of irresponsible from my perspective. But saying that, you can say that there have been occasions when it's been publicly shown that major acquisitions there is some level of incompetence, but it's not as if he's left the day after the acquisition. It's not as if the game came out and then he left.
There's but that's why I said I'm kind of wondering whether there was still in that sort of middle barter, and that's why it's just happened now. It's just that he's been in that middle, he's been in that backwards and forwards agreement, and I don't know, maybe it's like 2 months ago it was still, oh, we can get him on boards. And then it was like, no, we can't.
I think so. But I think, he'd have had to hand his notice in. And if you're saying that post handing his notice in, was there a negotiation to try? I'm sure perhaps there was attempts made, but there's no surprise to me the fact that it's Shinji's left, and it's coincided with the studio's closure, because it wouldn't have just been Shinji going. Everything else, saying.
So that's what I'm saying. Is it something that's been forced on?
Everything else is just supposition, right? It's guessing, right? But there's obviously a correlation between him and key staff going to the studio fundamentally closing, because Microsoft couldn't find a way forward for the studio to remain opened, and it had to obviously close.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
That's the only point I'm making.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether that was a force by hand rather than they knew what was going on. Was it sort of things? You know what it is? We're talking about management here. Management is the most naive individuals generally. They'll always go, "Oh, we can work it. We can get it. We can get it to happen. We can get it to happen. We can get it to happen." Right up to the point it doesn't happen. It wouldn't surprise me 2 months ago, top management was like, oh, we can get him on board. We can get him on board. We can get him on board. Don't worry about it. That's fine. Look, we'll just negotiate something. Just tell him we're going to get more stuff out of it. And he's just gone, no. And I'm going. And so's the other staff. At which point it's like, oh, buggers. What do we do? Well, we can't do anything about it. The incompetence of management doesn't surprise me in any shape.
And I think this, and I've spoken about it, just kind of echoes what I've said about 3 years ago about Sarah Bond. I kind of see people, I see their mannerisms, I see how they speak, I see what they say, how they say it, and I can pretty much tell you whether they should be, in the position that they're in. Now, whether they're in the position where they've earned it, whether they've not earned it, whether they've been placed there, whether they're patsies, whatever, you can go away and just, do all your daydreaming yourself. But you can pretty much see that some of the appointments that they've made in Japan, coupled with the fact the amount of visits Phil's made there himself, coupled with the fact that you've got Matt Booty and Sarah Bond visiting Japan as well quite frequently in the last few years, that they still... I mean, they can't manage stuff on their own front doorstep, right? With 343, so it's not really a surprise that certain studios are being shut down. And don't get me wrong, you can have game studios, and you want to talk about ruthless. I've been in meetings where we look at a bunch of studios and we say, this one needs a slap, this one needs support, this one just needs deleting. And that's how real sort of, that's in the real business world.
Oh yeah, 100%. But that's. Yeah. In this instance, it does tie to me that, I mean, it speaks more to the incompetence of management, rather than them lying.
No. I've not
saying, it's outright lying that they knew what was going to. It more leans to me the incompetence of management, where they probably thought that he had him on board. Right up until the moment he was like, "That's it, I'm gone. I've just had your chance."
If I said lying or implied that they were lying, that wasn't what I said.
No. It was just in terms of just like they 2 months ago they knew this was probably going to happen. I was like, my gut feeling is I suspect they probably were just in this wishful management thinking where we can still get him on board. We can still get him on board. And then they did the stupid thing of basically announcing that that studio was going to make.
Yeah, and my point to that is that, bloody hell, if you think that removal, that's even more damning compared to what I'm
exactly
thinking.
what I'm saying.
I'm trying to be polite compared to you, right?
Oh,
And
I'm
it's
not. No. I know how stupid. I mean, that's a perfect example with my own management. You know, they fired someone, they fired a whole load of, they fired a team, and 2 months down the line, now have to try their asses to get that team back. That's how stupid they are. And this is a company that's made profit every year for the last 20 years.
Yeah.
So if that's how I know the stupidity of management works. And if that can do it, if even on a smaller scale that can happen, it doesn't surprise me it happens on a bigger scale with a multi-billion-dollar dollar company.
And with and just on that removal, you only have to look at 343, right? With Chris Lee being a patsy for Bonnie, right? Then Bonnie being a patsy for a make weight for Matt Booty, right? You can see, I can just see how Microsoft operates. They have a problem. They've got many problems, but strategy is one, and the other one is lack of vision with indecision, and that's
it's reactive rather than proactive. And that's exactly what I suspect has happened here. It's reactive.
No, I mean in general. Across the board.
Oh no, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, just in management.
With a lack of vision, yeah, and a problem with their strategy overall. And you only have to look at. I don't know if people know this in general, but I think they do, right? Is that even the founder, the creative director, and the narrative director, I think he is Tamim Antoine-Ades, who's been there from day one, right? Is left as well, right? Ninja Theory. So. So yeah, so it's interesting times for them, and you wonder why.
Well, this is the thing. This is.
I don't want to sit here guessing because it could be a million different reasons.
We can't guess. There could be numerous reasons. It could be health reasons, family reasons, private reasons, personal reasons, or it could just be money reasons. There is a vast number of reasons. The crux is, what was the old saying? Never think intent when stupidity can sometimes always be the most probable cause. I know that's kind of a different way of phrasing it. There's a different way of actual phrasing that, but it's like, you know, stupidity is 9 times more likely than the actual intent itself. And when it comes to stupidity, management does seem to highly hold a lot of that aspect. So regardless, yes, the studio shutting down doesn't surprise me now I've heard that.
No.
I must admit, but it also at the same time it still stands to the point where they buy and sell products.
Yep,
and they start buy and sell studios as a thing. I said Tango Studios. Maybe they had a big debt. It still could have had that debt, and maybe that's what the argument. You know, the decision making was one of the reasons why he left. And the team left.
You'll never.
You'll never truly know what's in the background of what's been going on. Now, if you do some real serious digging into their finances and, you know, got into having major conversations with the actual owners themselves, you might be able to dig something out. But it isn't. But in terms of studios going the way, you know, going down the pan, there are so many studios that are going down the pan. It's not just a Microsoft thing. It's an industry thing. It's an industry dip at this stage, and I suspect it will take a few years before it starts to peak again.
Yeah, I think when you look at it like that, it's the studios that they've cut. Can I use the term low hanging fruit as an expression as to why they were cut? Can I use that?
Yeah, it makes sense.
I don't know what I mean, but I don't know if you know what I mean.
Yeah, of low quality, of low value.
Yeah, so I think they got rid of low hanging fruit, and I'm just trying to think, did they have any other low hanging fruit? And I'm hard pushed to think of anyone else within the stable of studios that they have. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Well, I said just because they've made one good game doesn't mean that the whole company had some financial.
I think they made one good game that reviewed really well, but I have to sort of kind of lean towards what Mr. Stubz was saying. Releasing it in Game Pass, it's probably going to limit their return, right?
Yeah.
Financial return.
Well, they've been paid generally anyway, so that would have been a Microsoft decision So therefore, Microsoft would have expected. I mean, okay, if we look at it as a financial sense, there would have been a just purely from a financial sense, they would have expected a financial return.
Yeah.
Even though it went into Game Pass. Now the question is, was their expected return achieved? We won't know. We'll never know. Secondly, the fact that the studio's lead and heads and all those creative leads had gone bye-bye probably played into it more than the games themselves.
Are you saying that it perhaps had critical acclaim but didn't perform financially? Is that the point?
Well, I suspect it probably actually performed quite financially well. My gut feeling is my gut feeling is that games in Game Pass, and from discussions I've had with other indie developers, is that they take the hit. Microsoft takes the hit.
Yeah.
Because it's in Game Pass, but then they circumvent that with it coming out and selling it off at a cheaper price after it comes out. So it gets that interest at the very first. They know it's going to be a big hulk of players that will say, they'll play it when it comes out in Game Pass, but they kind of get like a second whiff when it's out of Game Pass and it's on the store. And they normally try and correspond that with other platforms.
Is it the developer or Microsoft get the second bite?
No. It's Microsoft. The developer's been paid. Okay. He's gone. Okay. He's dusted. He doesn't. There isn't much more here this year. Once it goes in Games Pass, that's it. He's not getting any more money.
They're paid a minimum guarantee, which is recouped at a relatively low rate, so that all the cream, if there is any, goes to Microsoft. Yeah. I got it.
So they don't get any more money the moment it goes into Game Pass. At least from what I've been told. Now, I'm not. This is from some of the developers I've spoken to, so I don't, take that with a pinch of salt. They could be totally porcupines, but
no. They get a flat rate. There is never a flat deal. There's lots of different deals are cut.
Exactly. Some might have caveats here and there, and then afterwards, when it goes to another platform, so it goes to PC, they then push it out onto the storefront. So therefore, it gets a second whiff. Because it hits another platform, PC, that rises influence and interest into it again. That also then translates over to the console because they hear about this game in PC and they're like, oh, maybe they've missed it the first time, so they then get a second whiff. And then should it go to another platform like PlayStation, it gets a third hit. And that's how they've worked about recouping the costs. Now the question is,
It's good risk mitigation for the developer, so I can understand why initially, in the outset from Game Pass, it made a lot of sense for developers. But there's going to come a point when Game Pass is only generating a finite amount of revenue every month, and that money has to be allocated to first-party studios, second-party studios, and third-party content for the duration of each and every year. And that money is finite, and they've got to turn a profit from that as well. With hardware not selling, software, and I made this point on Boom's channel, and they said, hardware is not important. I said, hardware is critical, mate. Hardware and the accessories, they generate so much revenue.
100%.
In the cycle of hardware, and having the box in people's home is far more important than having an ever-present eye in your company and your brand than just saying, oh, you can stream my content.
Well, again, think of Game Pass as a different way of selling. So you're selling a software 3 times rather than 1 time.
Yeah.
So that's how they're looking at it, I suspect. That's how it's gauging. Instead of your straightforward, goes in the game store, done. And then it might come up again a year later when they do it and they knock it down with, Game Pass or Xbox subscription deal, which they can still do, by the way. That's the only 2 times that these games generally get what I would call a ramp in sort of interest. With Game Pass, they can spread that interest out numerous times. So therefore but it may be that it hits in a low, it's a longer return versus a short return, and that's how I think they're gauging it. So I think if it goes straight on the store, it's a short return, bam, big money straight in, damn, perfect. For the Game Pass ones, I'm guessing it's more of a long game to play, long return.
Unless the guarantees will be different as well. Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying.
So that's how I think they generally gauge the Game Pass situation. And if you look at it like that, it then kind of makes sense of what games go into Game Pass. So if you look at the bigger games like your Call of Duty, makes sense, doesn't it, to kind of put it in a long-term return? They know Call of Duty is going to.
No, it doesn't. I disagree. I think they're making a stupid mistake putting it into Game Pass. They're going to lose a fortune. They're going to get. They're still going to lose a fortune. Them £70 a month.
Can I just say something
from Xbox?
Can I just say? I think you both got a valid point there. I think the fact that the one fact we don't know removable is I can only go by what I was told in terms of Elden Ring. Okay, so when Elden Ring came out, I was talking to distributors, and in some countries, I can't remember when Elden Ring came out. So try to remind me of 2 years ago, right? And it was almost between 10 to 20 to 1 in terms of sales on PlayStation versus Xbox. So I kind of see where Stubbs would say, well, hang on a minute. Call of Duty sells millions of copies. Why, if they're going to sell 10 million on Xbox, why would they turn away $700 million in revenue? But that's the question. What's Microsoft seeing and saying, look, are we really going to sell 10 million copies of Call of Duty Black Ops 6 or whatever? I don't know what the new one's called, but on Xbox, or are we only going to sell 2 million because the majority of the people are going to buy it on PS4 and PS5 and PC because it's still coming on multi-format, old formats? So is it only 7? If we're going to sell 2 million, it's only $140 million.
Then your
sales. Hang on a minute, but will that putting it in Game Pass help us A, maintain MAUs, or B, increase MAUs? And I think that's where they've got.
Look at it. This is a long-term strategy.
It's going to hinder them on Xbox. So they can do what they want. I think it's going to hinder sales.
It is a risk removable, but again, it may turn out to be a smart.
Game Pass. I'll be honest. Game Pass is not a long play no more. I don't think Game Pass has got long left. I think within a couple of years they may pull the plug.
Silk Song will save it. Silk Song will save it.
They may. I think they're close to the end. The next couple of years, if it doesn't work,
my gut feeling is that it's a different subscription. It's a different payment system. And as I said, my gut feeling is Call of Duty will come in. They'll get an increase in subscriptions in some cases just for that alone. Now, whether a lot of those will translate and stick around, I don't know.
£120 a year to play one game. A lot of people just
120 quid stubs. Why would you pay 120 quid?
But what I mean is, there's a lot of gamers that just play Call of Duty. So if
but why would you spend 120 quid? You could just spend for 1 or 2 months.
Yes, but what I'm saying is most of the Call of Duty players just play Call of Duty. So they wouldn't sub for the whole year.
You could buy it. You could buy it for one. You could buy 1 or 2 months or 3 months,
or you could just buy the game.
Can I just say something on it? Because I think there's another strand to this. Because I think that depending on what happens June the 9th, we know that Call of Duty may come to Game Pass. I don't know if it's a fact or not. So correct me because I don't know. And number 2 is there's the Indiana Jones movie coming, and then somebody at the beginning of the show mentioned something about Starfield DLC or something, and Silk Song is coming. And I know that these aren't huge, massive games, but the picture's starting to look greater than the sum of its parts. And if you've got that many games and you're interested in Xbox and you're thinking of buying a next-gen hardware, because obviously the hardware users for console hasn't peaked yet anywhere near, it may be Xbox's Christmas. I mean, I'm just touching at straws. It may be Xbox's Christmas in terms of the number of hardware units they shift. And if you buy their hardware unit, you're hooked, right? And you're in Game Pass.
All it needs is, like as you said, is an extra 3%.
It just needs that perfect storm of content. And I don't know what Microsoft have got up its sleeve. So I know you can look at Call of Duty in isolation, but you've got to look at the other supporting cast that they may potentially have this Christmas. Exactly. I don't know if that's a valid point or not, but
it is, and I think all it takes is 3% for all those hardware. Bam, they've made a fortune. Secondly, as I said, it's a different mechanic.
People in their ecosystem, haven't they? They've got people in their ecosystem.
And then also you've got to remember, if it's in Game Pass, they can bump it when it goes to a different platform. PC, and I don't know if it is PC straight away. Is it PC being?
I don't know.
What, Call of Duty?
You know, Mr. Stubbs. I think Mr. Stubbs.
It's normally all the platforms at once.
Yeah. Okay. But I think.
I think you're. Yeah. So at the moment, it guarantees that, as you rightly said, you know what's going to happen, don't you? One of the things they're going to say is like, as you rightly said,
Oh,
VJ,
sorry, no, you were asking about Game Pass, were you? Or were you asking about does it launch on all platforms at once?
No, Game Pass.
I don't know about
PC.
PC. It may not be straight away.
Is it coming to Game Pass? Is it confirmed now, removal? Because I don't even know if I'm talking.
That Sarah Bond confirmed it. The latest version's coming.
Yeah, they basically. But as I said, one of the things you think about it, as you rightly said, it's they pay for it, they play it. If you want to buy Call of Duty, you can spend your $90 or $120 on PlayStation or PC, or you can play it for free on Game Pass.
Yeah.
What do you want to do, Mr. Customer?
Yeah,
they can't market it that way though. They'll get into trouble. So
they don't need to market it. Let's face it, they don't need to market it.
Call of Duty doesn't need marketing.
Yeah. You don't have to say anything.
I think with Call of Duty, you see, I see Stubbs' point. I think he's got a very valid point because of basically on the past historical track record of Microsoft, things very, very rarely work out how they intend them to work out. But at the same time, I can see it as a last hurrah, as a really strong strategy to really go for it this one last time at Christmas, especially if you look at it like this. If they've got 30 million I don't know what the number is, 30 million paying $10-15 a month, that's $450 million. I know it's not that much. I know it's probably closer, a lot less than that, because people are paying $1 or paying with points or whatever. But like I said to you, if they're only going to sell 2 or 3 million copies of Call of Duty, that is that month's allocation of funding gone to acquire the game, to stick it into Game Pass, as well as the additional sales they'll get anyway from people buying it. So it's worth them doing it for a title as big as that, because commercially they may never ever sell. If they just launched it as a full retail price game, they may never ever sell more than 3 million copies on the hardware format. They're saying, well, what's the point? Well, let's just allocate that month.
Because Xbox has never hit that large number. Yeah.
So I see both sides of it.
The biggest thing also is, I think, is just, even though they can't advertise it like it, you're going to get people going, well, why am I spending $60 or $90 on PlayStation when I can buy an Xbox?
That was exactly my argument when they bought Bethesda, and nobody on the panel was having it. I said, this is commercial suicide. Why would you not use that as the most fantastic marketing ploy and say, hey, look, you know what? We've got Starfield. It's coming in multi-format, but guess what? It's coming in Game Pass. And you would have won the goodwill of PlayStation fans.
Well, as I said,
I know people that bought an Xbox.
I don't think they're allowed to, are they? They're not allowed to market certain things like
that. No, not.
Plus, also, secondly,
I'm going to ask the question: why are they not allowed to? Why? Because I can't think of a valid reason.
It's in where you can advertise. It's in Game Pass, but you can't.
Yeah, why can't I?
You can't advertise pay $70 or have it in Game Pass for free.
No, but you can infer it a million different ways. You can pay all your influencers to do it. There's a million ways you can get the million ways you can get the message out there. Come on, we live in a modern.
But to be honest with you, what is the one thing that Xbox fails to do on a regular basis?
Messaging. They get it wrong.
So the argument, the fact that they can't do it is incorrect. The fact that they can do it, and they could have inferred it, and they could have got the message out there, and they could have made a difference in the industry. They could have created a paradigm shift, and this is exactly what I said 4 years ago. That would have been my strategy, because it led to profit, and it led to establishing the brand, and it would have established your goodwill towards gamers and your intent of where you stand, right, in terms of creating this gaming utopia, as to why I supported Phil at the beginning.
I think they did do something similar to that.
Oh, I feel good about Xbox, and that just told me how weak their strategy is. When I saw that email from him to Satya, I was like, my God, really? Because if I'd have seen that sort of email in my time, it would have been sent to make cups of tea.
What was it? What email was this?
There was an email that came out during the court case, just prior to launch, and it was
I vaguely remember something about that. Yes,
and it was like, now that I've seen the PlayStation presentation on their hardware, I feel really good about Xbox. And Satya replies back, "Oh, that's really good to hear, Phil." And I thought, oh my God, am I in kindergarten school? Is this what big $2 trillion corporate companies send in email format? Because honestly, I was gobsmacked, removable, because to me, It was really shocking, really shocking. I just can't believe it.
To me, it isn't, because at the end of the day, as I said, the stupidity of management.
Stupidity of having too much money removable. It's the stupidity of having too much money.
Well, it's
and having no strategy. Yeah. If your strategy is to feel good about some other company's presentation makes you feel good that you might have a chance, I don't know in what world that's a strategy.
Well, it's a
Western strategy. Tell me if I'm being harsh, because that's why I have these conversations.
It's a Western strategy. It's a Western strategy. It's not an Eastern strategy. And those are the very things it is. There's different types of strategies in the world. And to be honest, Xbox has always kind of had its failures when it comes to strategies. To be honest, I think a lot of Xbox's winnings is just due to luck in some cases. They've hit the right thing at the right time. They've hit the right strategy at the right time, and maybe that's what they're going for. They're going for see what sticks and see if it works.
It reminds me of a documentary I watched about Bill Gates and Microsoft and Apple and a few others. I think it's a famous one. You might have already seen it, when it's explaining during the rise of Microsoft in the 90s with AOL and all these other companies and everything. Bill Gates' strategy was this: look at who's doing really well. Look at where they could incorporate that into their business. They've got the money, the power, the resource, the influence. They'd call up various companies, say, look, we're calling you today. Here's our offer, and take it or leave it. If you take it, this is the price you're getting. Whether it's fair or not, that's your problem. If you don't take it, we'll buy your competitor and put you out of business in 6 months. And that was their strategy, basically. But at that time, they could. But these days, other companies have money, and they are smart, and they've got access to funds and power that influence themselves. And it just seems to me that they just haven't changed since the 90s. Because if I look back on Microsoft's history, or even Xbox's history, forget about Xbox's history, forget about Microsoft, sorry, it just really does kind of smell about brute force. Something's working, they're making money, so let's buy it, and I'm sure we'll leave it alone, and it will make money. But the problem is they don't leave it alone.
Well, this has always been the thing, isn't it? They've always liked to tweak. So it's how can we? I remember seeing a letter, an email, or something along from Microsoft, and it's "Welcome to our culture."
No, do you watch Star Trek? Have you ever watched Star Trek?
Well, yes. Yeah.
Do you remember the I don't know which one it was with Picard. I think it might have been the second feature-length movie where the Borg, where they it's like where they assimilate everybody they acquire, every world they conquer, and they take the inhabitants and they assimilate them into the
strengths and we get rid of the weaknesses. And it's like, but unfortunately, I said it's one of those things. It's like, welcome to our culture. This is the way we do things here. And it's like, but that's not what made things. That's what made that studio great. It was because they didn't do it the way you did it.
I was just
but that, it is. I can understand the logic.
Aliens from outer space or anything.
I think it's one of these things. Microsoft, and I think this is just not Microsoft as well. PlayStation has their own faults. Xbox has their own faults. My gut feeling is that
they all do. They all have their strengths and weaknesses. But the most important thing is that you keep your head afloat and you keep slightly ahead of the curve, or well ahead of the curve, or you keep at the bleeding edge. You just don't end up, falling foul.
Microsoft is going to go anywhere soon. I don't think that Game Pass is going to go anywhere soon. My gut feeling, it's not like. It doesn't feel like it's the other half-hearted attempts at trying to make money. The reason I look at it's like you look at some of the stuff they've done, and it generally never lasts anything beyond 18 months.
Yeah.
Anything after I've noticed with Xbox, if it's gonna last, it'll either hit 18 months and disappear.
Otherwise, the culling begins.
Yes. So you look at some of the services they've provided, and it's just round the 18th month mark. It's then decided, it's disappearing, or it's gone. From its streaming service, only lasted around 18 months.
Yeah, I just want to say, it's not that I don't have sympathy or a pity Microsoft. I don't have sympathy any for them anymore. They should know better. But it's more of a case of, it's not like we didn't see this coming. We kind of, I know I saw it coming up because I spoke about it on a show, so it's there, right? It's not even like making this up, but it's like average. Let's just say, I mean, I'm not in the industry and haven't been for a long time, but I'm just like an average punter in the street, and I can see it. So it makes you wonder. These guys that are paid to think about it all day long, they're paid millions of dollars.
That's the thing. I think this is what I classify as the stupidity of management. The stupidity of management is that they're so too busy worried about stuff that doesn't matter. They completely miss the focus on the stuff that really does matter. So they'll be so busy probably working out, what's the next PR strategy that makes me look good versus, what's the real focus of maintaining these studios and keeping them working smoothly.
It reminds me of that. You say that, and it reminds me of that phrase. And forgive me if I've got it wrong. Pride goeth prior to a fall.
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's. I've seen it. I've seen it in some management, and I've seen it myself where I've literally said, if we don't do this,
in your local kebab shop.
If we don't do this, it will collapse. And they've said, yeah. And then I'm sure it's a meme, Joshua, and it's like 6 months down the line, it collapses. And they're like, oh my God, how do we solve this? And you're like, not my problem. I told you 6 months ago this was collapse. It's now collapsed because you couldn't be bothered to do anything about it.
Yeah, but in a corporate company like Microsoft, you can't say that, right? You'd be fired. So you just have to, even though they've done.
You can't really do it in my company either. But it's one of those things you just sit there and go, I don't know, because you've given them
managing downwards, right, and managing upwards, but not.
Well, actually, I'm a bit too.
I know you, but you know what I mean.
I'm a bit too blunt in my office, anyway. They know me
not
very well enough.
Not everyone's experienced or valued, right? Or like you are in most companies, right? Even if it is
I wouldn't say I'm valued.
Well, it's been a good conversation. I've got to wrap it up there because we've gone 20 minutes over. But it's been a good conversation. My son's fell asleep on the sofa. He's waiting for me, But yes, it's been a great conversation. So we've hit loads of different topics. We have, which is always good. But yeah,
thanks. The world to rights.
Yeah, definitely have. Thanks for coming on, Removable. Would you like to tell people where they can find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Minds, Rumble, X, and Xbox under the name Removable Sanity.
Thank you for coming on. And VJ, thanks for coming on. It's always good to have you on. And we're back next week for some hard-hitting topics. Well, whatever we come up with anyway. I'll watch some anime, so then we'll have some more anime to talk about. We will. And anyone, if you're listening to this on replay, if you haven't heard from Masuku, don't worry. He's on holiday in China, so he won't be back till the end of June. Just to let you know, because I know a lot of people worry about him. So there we go. If he's back, because in China you can't use Western apps, so
nope.
They can't use them at all. The Great Firewall, you can't. But just letting people know, if any of you are listening, I hope you're having a good holiday, Masuku. If you catch up with this show, but yeah, thanks for coming on, VJ. It's always good to have you on.
Yeah, no worries. Thanks for having me on, and sorry for going off on loads of tangents.
No, I enjoy it when it's like that. I would have gone longer, but he's fallen asleep on the sofa, yes. Yeah, man, bless him. Right, everyone, thanks for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe. Leave a review on your podcast platform of choice, and we will be back next week, definitely. Right. So. Well, we'll see.
No one actually listens to us, do they? Really?
No. They do, actually. Our biggest platform's Apple Podcasts, believe it or not. The last podcast we did, over 30 people and over 600 people have listened to us on Apple, as opposed to 189 on other platforms. But yeah, Apple seems to be the favourite, but they need to put the reviews in. Review on Apple, please. Review. It helps.
We boo.
Anyway, see you next week, everyone, hopefully. Cheers. Right.
Bye.